Hey everybody, it's Karen from So Creative, and today we're going to be talking about flying geese and how to make them. So originally I learned to make flying geese by cutting a large rectangle and two squares, and I would sew a square right on the diagonal line that I drew. So I would stitch right on that line, you can see it on the back, and then I would flip over that triangle to get my flying geese. So I would have a triangle on this side and a triangle on this side after I sewed the squares. The downside to this technique is that you really don't want three pieces of fabric on one side. So my suggestion is to cut the center out. And when I was teaching this, one of my students said it's like cutting the tongue out of the mouth. Okay? So when you cut the tongue out and you iron your triangle really nicely, you can see that I have a little bit of my rectangle showing. Well, I am not going to cut that off because often when you sew diagonally and then flip, you do not get an accurate flip that's going to cover perfectly. So when I go to sew this piece together with other pieces, I know, or I trust, that I cut my rectangle accurately. So I'm going to leave that rectangle whole, and I'm going to piece my pieces using the rectangle as my guide. So I hope that makes sense. Since I used to do it this way, quilting has changed a lot, and now we have tools to make it much easier. This is a step-by-step. You're working on one flying goose at a time, but when you use a tool like this one, you are actually creating 4 flying geese at a time. So let me show you how that works. On this tool, it tells me I know that I want my flying geese to finish at 4 by 8 in my quilt. That's the finished size. So they will have to be 4.5 by 8.5 before I sew them to other pieces. So that is actually the largest that I can do with this tool, which is called the Ultimate Flying Geese tool. So right on the tool it says that I'm going to have to cut one square 9 3/4 by 9 3/4, and I'm going to have to cut 4 squares 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. So I now have my large square and I have 2 of my 4 small squares. I have drawn a line straight down the middle of each of the small squares diagonally, and I've pinned them so that they overlap a little bit on my background square. I'm now going to sew 1/4 inch on either side of my drawn line, and you can see that when I cut straight down on that drawn line, I'm going to come out with something like this. Now I'm going to take another of my squares, my small squares. Again, I've got the diagonal line on it. I'm going to place it right here on top of the larger square. I would pin it again, and again I am going to sew on either side 1/4 inch from that drawn line. And when I cut that open, then I end up with a flying goose, just like this. Now, the nice thing about the tool that I just showed you, the Ultimate Flying Geese tool, is that it's very easy to trim down. So once I have this piece, and let's just put it here and pretend that it is exactly the way I said I was sewing it. And you can see I have 1 flying geese here, and then I have a second flying geese here, and then I have 2 more on the other half. So once I get it here, then I'm going to, of course, use my Easy Press ironing pen to make sure that my fabric lays really, really flat so that when I trim, I get an accurate cut. And I'm going to take this side of my ruler and I'm going to line up the lines. And I know that I need the largest because that's what I'm doing. I'm doing the 4 by 8 inch finished. And it will tell you right here. It's very easy to spot it. So I'm going to lay these diagonal lines on the diagonal sewn lines, and I'm going to go cut, cut. And then I'm going to turn this whole block around, and now I'm going to use the other side. So let's show you that. You're going to pretend that I did the cut. Now when I lay it on top, again, I've got these diagonal lines to follow, and now I'm matching that trim line that I already did so that I can just go cut, cut, and I get a perfect flying geese piece, the exact size I want. So this is the ultimate flying geese tool. We also have another tool that I have recommended for beginning quilters. It is the wing clipper tool. This tool does exactly the same thing. The lines are very similar. It makes a lot more different sizes of flying geese. I don't usually use anything much bigger than 4 by 8, but if you wanted a lot bigger, this one gives you 10 different sizes. So you choose the tool that's going to work best for you, but I do love the Creative Grids ruler. Both of them come with directions. Both of them come with videos that you can get online to remind yourself, but this video will be on YouTube forever. So feel free to check back and watch it again. Thanks for watching.